KBLA Sports Minute, I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
1 year ago, flames tore through Altadena and Eaton Canyon, changing lives forever. From the ashes, can a beloved community rise stronger? Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, host of First Things First, weekday mornings, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm inviting you to join us on Wednesday, January 7th, as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on the 1-year anniversary of this horrific and devastating fire. We're remembering those we lost, celebrating the heroes and sheroes who answered the call, and honoring the resilience of neighbors who are determined to rebuild together.
I've been a strong black woman a long time, and I can't just break down now.
Hear the stories of survival, the voices of recovery, the spirit of community that the fire couldn't destroy, and yes, the angst of those who still do not know where they go from here.
Yeah, where am I go?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we don't just cover the story, we're part of this community, and we've done our level best to hold those responsible for this fire accountable. And 1 year later, we're still standing together.
It is my hopes that black people will rebuild those homes.
So join us live at Perry's Joint, 2051 Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 7th, as we commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Because some stories demand to be remembered.
This too shall pass.
This KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall is sponsored by LA Fire Justice.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me. Back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavismiley.com. That's thetavismiley.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today, but first, Happy New Year. What a blessing it is to still be here. I pray that this year will bring you moments of unexpected joy, the courage to embrace new beginnings, and the grace to find peace in both the journey and the destination. It is Monday, so Dr. Cornel West is back this year to kick off Hour 2, as he does every Monday and Thursday. Some years ago, Dr. West and I traveled to Venezuela to meet with Nicholas Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez. Dr. West, as I recall, Harry Belafonte, Dolores Huerta, Danny Glover, Walter Mosley. There were a few of us in this very special delegation to Venezuela to meet with President Chavez. Chavez, of course, dies of cancer. Nicholas Maduro becomes president, and now, as you all know, he has been abducted by our government and is presently sitting in a prison cell in Brooklyn. As I'm on the air right now, probably making his way for his first appearance in a courtroom. We're on at different hours in different time zones in different cities. But as I sit here right now, soon to be seen for the first time in a U.S. courtroom, Nicholas Maduro and his wife, who were abducted in Venezuela just days ago. So first, as I said, we will unpack some of that with Dr. Cornel West, who visited Venezuela with me a few years ago. And on the B side of our two, we'll talk to José Luis Granados Ceja, the Latin American reporter for Drop Site News. In our third hour today, two more conversations. Up first, a conversation with Oklahoma State University philosopher and co-director of the Africana Studies Program, Professor Lawrence Ware, about that Nicki Minaj drama. Nicki just lost her mind during the holidays, huh? That MAGA flirtation over the holidays, what that was all about, and frankly, what it could mean, if anything, for black voters in the midterms later this year. On the B side of our three, spiritual writer, author, and wellness educator, Lalah Delia is back on this program, as she is pretty much every year at the start, to talk about how we can enter the new year with clarity, with steadiness, and with inner alignment. We'll talk to Lalah Delia, that is, at the last half hour of today's program. But in this first hour, let's talk politics and more with author, podcaster, and Fordham University political science professor, Christina Greer. My first guest of the new year is Christina Greer. How's that for a rhyme, Christina?
I'm so honored to be the first guest of the new year.
I'm honored to have you on as our first guest of the new year. And where else can we start? We'll get to, again, more Venezuela stuff in hour two. But since Christina teaches this stuff at Fordham every day, I dare not start this conversation without giving her a chance to sound off on what she makes of all this drama regarding Trump, Venezuela, this territorial adventurism, what I regard as a blatant and illegal act of war. Indeed, Zohran Mamdani, the new mayor in the city where Christina lives, who she endorsed, has called this an act of war as well. We'll get to Zohran Mamdani and his inauguration speech and how he intends to govern in New York. We're all watching that. But first, here is your president, Donald Trump, talking about how he's going to run Venezuela.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. And that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now. And what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
Okay, Mr. President, that's your president. Here's your Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth.
Nicholas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around, and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026, and under President Trump, America is back.
Yeah, there's your welcome to 2026. FAFO, that's what he said. He effed around and found out. There's your Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. I got so much to say. I'll hold it till we come forward. It's going to be a great first hour with Christina Greer on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to tavistalks.com right now. That's tavistalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
The magic isn't over yet. Target's clearance event is happening now with savings of up to 50%. It's the perfect time to get set for the year with great deals on clothing and shoes for the whole family, beauty faves for every style, toys that keep the fun going, and so much more. Don't miss out because these deals go fast. Score incredible savings and keep the magic going during the clearance event, now in stores, only at Target. Restrictions apply.
BET and PBS, The Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. You like that? This is Tavis Smiley.
Tired of the same old sports talk? Ready to go where the real conversation happens? Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, host of Out of Bounds, the sports show that doesn't play it safe. Every Friday at 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, my co-host Neil Scarborough and I get you ready for the weekend. We take you beyond the highlight reels and into the stories that matter. The controversial calls, the game-changing plays, the athletes making headlines for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong ones. From the NFL to the NBA, college ball to the pros, if it's happening in sports, we're breaking it down with no filter and all opinion. Tune in to Out of Bounds with me, Ray Richardson, and my co-host Neil Scarborough, live every Friday at 6 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580, because the best conversations happen out of bounds. KBLA Talk 1580, where Los Angeles talks.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Christina Greer out of Fordham University, my first guest of the year. Delighted to have her on in first position. So, Christina, just weeks ago, we were told this is all about drugs. This is about Venezuela and their drug problem and shipping drugs to the American people. Drugs was the word a few weeks ago. And now we know, which we knew anyway, it ain't about drugs. It's about oil. I digress. It's all yours. Take it and run.
Well, Tavis, on the first day of class, I teach Introduction to Politics every semester.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell my students, if you ever get confused on an exam, the answer is money. And just start there and work your way back. Don't get nervous, but it's like if we're talking about anything in American politics, the answer is money, and then you work your way back.
Work your way back.
And here we are. You know, the Daily Show did a splice up of us talking about Iraq. It's a few weeks ago, and essentially splicing everything that was said about Iraq. They were using the same terminology to talk about Venezuela initially, and we know it's about oil. I mean, anyone who has 2 eyes and half of a brain figured that out months ago. And so initially when they said it was about drugs, well, that falls apart when you pardon, the former president of Honduras.
Yeah, that's right.
Drugs, right? Then you say it's about gangs. Well, that falls apart when, you pardon this person and you invite them to the White House, and talk about building more prisons in El Salvador. And this president has ties to gangs. Etc. So it's not about drugs. It's not about gangs. It's not about public safety. It's not about the diaspora. And so now it's just, because the president is so erratic and, can't sort of keep a coherent thought in his head, he always says the quiet part loud. And so now the Republicans are scrambling to justify what is so blatantly a smash and grab, which is let me just go into our neighbor's backyard and kidnap a sitting leader in the middle of the night. And so we know that there's no regard for UN treaties. We know that there's no regard for international law. We know that there's no regard for the Venezuelan people. You know, many people have not really talked about the casualties of citizens, not just military personnel, but citizens who were killed in that extraction. So the list goes on, and we're dealing with a rogue president. And until the Republican Party and the sycophants within the Republican Party who are aiding and abetting this illegal international behavior, I don't know what the next steps are. Because, Tavis, if we can look at the Republicans in this administration and they don't even have a plan for health care for millions of Americans who are about to have premiums that are sky high and or no premium because they're just going to have to go without insurance. And they've had 10 years to figure something out since they've been railing about Obamacare. And they haven't figured that out. We now know that we've gotten ourselves realistically into a 30-year intervention that I don't know how we're going to extract ourselves out of it.
Yep. So first of all, to your point about health care, I'm one of those Americans who got my bill the other day, and it has skyrocketed. So I'm not telling you something that I heard or something that we've been talking about that it seems foreign to me. My health insurance the other day skyrocketed, and my eyes popped out of my head when I saw that new bill come across my desk. And so I'm not the only person. Obviously, many of you listening right now are in the same boat that all of us are in. Maybe boat is the wrong word given this conversation about Venezuela, but we're all in the same situation because I just saw my premiums the other day, and I am not happy about it. And again, so I feel your pain, as a former president once said. But back to Donald Trump for a second here. We had this conversation, Christina, you and I had it. I had it with so many of my other contributors last year, 2025, about where the line was or is where Donald Trump will have gone too far. You have to believe that for any American president in this so-called democracy, there is a line somewhere out there. There's a line that he will step across where he will have gone too far. We asked that question time and time again in his very first year, and that's the part we got to remind ourselves of. This is the first year of a 4-year presidency. Now, I'm watching Donald Trump's face. I'm listening to his voice. I'm watching his eyes. Donald Trump is not well, and I don't even mean mentally well. Physically, he's at that age now, just about 80, and I can see signs. If you're watching him, you can see and hear signs that he is not fit. We know he's not fit. I'm saying a bit more than not being fit. He's not well. So whether or not he lives long enough to serve out this entire term, we shall see. That's God's domain, not mine. What I do know is that we're only 1 year into a 4-year term. It's only been a year, Christina. And we've asked this question. Not in the full year yet, exactly. It ain't January 20th yet, exactly. So we've not reached the 1-year anniversary of the inauguration, but we've been asking this question for the last year. Where is that line? So we start out 2026. You heard Pete Hegseth say with that Cheshire grin on his face, welcome to 2026. This is the new America. So here we now see him going into a country, as you just laid out eloquently, under the cover of darkness and kidnapping the leader, the sitting president of another country. And I asked this question again at the start of 26. Where is that line?
Well, Tavis, there clearly is no line, right? Because if we are dealing with a man with no shame, and he has surrounded himself with men now who have no shame. And the first term, he had a bit of an issue because there were individuals in his inner orbit who actually did have a line. Eventually
they did.
Eventually.
Exactly.
Slowly but surely. But
exactly.
But even Bill Barr, even Jeff Sessions said this is a bridge too far. Even Mike Pence, a bridge too far. It had to be on January 6th, but here we are.
That's right.
I think, I talked to my dear friend and colleague who's also a guest on your show sometimes, Dr. Niambi Carter.
Sure.
And we always wonder, what is the line, right? Because clearly these supporters of the president, whether they're in the administration or in the Republican Party, don't have a line. There is almost nothing he can do. And we keep winding back the clock, Tavis, because we have to go back to not just the president's first term, but before he got elected, when he was caught on a hot mic talking about women and how he could grab them wherever. And they let you do it when you're famous, and ha ha ha. And Billy Bush lost his job, and that in the past would have been an offense that would have gotten him thrown off the ticket and banished into no man's land in any political party, right? We could think about Gary Hart being next to a boat called the Monkey Business, right? We could think about Howard Dean and the Dean Screen.
Sure.
I mean, things that have ruined people's presidential hopes. And this man said some of the most vulgar, quote unquote, locker room talk, which many athletes came out and said, we don't talk like that in the locker room. And not only did it not ruin his chances for the presidency, some people thought that that made him more of a man, right? And that just made him stronger than Hillary. And women were being too sensitive and uppity and all the things that he has just kept digging and digging into the most base desires of this manosphere that is filled with misogyny and hatred towards women, which then translates into hatred towards others. We've seen it with immigrants and obviously Black folks and Latinos and all other types of people. It's all in the same melange that this president supports and uplifts and allows people to go into their deepest, darkest, hate-filled desires and say it's okay, because that's what it really means to be a real American, which is also a proxy for whiteness.
That's deep. Put a pin in that. I may get back to that last point. Speaking of whiteness, so Donald Trump, which is his way, has a way with words. Whatever you think of him, he does in fact have a way with words. And again, because you teach this stuff at Fordham University, we all know from our history classes, you'll recall, at least from the history classes all those years ago, the Monroe Doctrine. What Donald Trump is doing now is the Monroe Doctrine on steroids. And he has now referred to it as the Donroe Doctrine. That's his terminology. It ain't the Monroe Doctrine, it's the Donroe Doctrine. So he's openly bragging about this new Donroe Doctrine, which again has at its epicenter this, as I said earlier, this notion of territorial adventurism, and it's Venezuela today. He's now threatening Colombia with the same thing. He has said that Cuba ain't worth invading because they're about to go under anyway. But he's doing this openly. He's bragging about it, and again, calling it not the Monroe Doctrine, but the Donroe Doctrine. So I ask now, what does this kind of adventurism mean for the U.S. writ large? We've been talking about Donald Trump and about Hegseth, but the defense secretary. But now I'm talking about the rest of us. What does this kind of nonsense mean for we the people, for the republic, when we are regarded or not regarded around the globe for this kind of behavior? Which again, you teach this. This ain't the first time we've done this. Now this is in the DNA of America. Let's just call it what it is.
From day one.
But from day one, exactly. But we're on a whole nother level now. I'm sorry, Christina, take it away.
Well, I think it makes us a lot less safe. Period. Right? It makes us, especially to our international foes and people who were once allies who will soon be foes, sadly. When we think about international terrorism, it makes us less safe on American soil. It makes Americans less safe when they travel abroad, or for military personnel who are abroad, for embassy personnel and ambassadors. It makes everything less safe. But also, Tavis, we're still dealing from the fallout from the Reagan era. And you and I are old enough to remember the damage that he did, and we're still sifting through that. When we think about Noriega and Panama and Nicaragua. I mean, all of the sort of Latin American countries and Central American countries that we dabbled in and then just left after we propped up a dictator and then just got bored once we extracted their resources. So here we are again, doing this in a much more, I would argue, insidious and violent way, somewhat due to technology, somewhat due to an erratic president, somewhat due to someone who has military personnel who, someone like Pete Hegseth, who's grossly incompetent. I mean, words can't even express just how incompetent he is. And so many four-star generals who have resigned, right? Not just because of quote unquote DEI conversations, but because they don't want to be a part of war crimes. And then also, Tavis, when we think about not just the moral conversation that we're having to make us less safe, intervening with other people's countries, plural, because let's be clear, it's not going to stop at Venezuela. But also the amount of money, again, thinking about money, it's going to take to sort of balance. We're still dealing with Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan. We still have a footprint there. I think that we're just going to have a sicker nation, as we just talked about with healthcare. We're going to have a lot of people who aren't going to be able to afford it, so they're just going to forego it. So we're going to start using doctors and ERs to cure everything as opposed to preventative medicine. We have, a health secretary and Robert Kennedy Jr., who is just, dare I say, dumber than a bag of hair, who doesn't believe in vaccines. We have moved so forward with vaccines where people don't die of measles and polio and things that, our grandparents or great-grandparents suffered as children. But now those are back. And so we're going to have an unhealthy nation. We know that he's getting rid of the education department and defunding public education on the K through 12 and even the collegiate level and community college level, which Joe Biden was really great at building up, since so many students need kind of that bridge, that community college bridge before they go into a four-year university. So we're going to have a less educated populace, a less qualified populace for various jobs to compete, not just at home and abroad. And the list goes on and on. And so it's it feels like almost a hatred of the American people. They talk deeply about their anti-immigrant stance, but many of their policies hurt their own base. Their own base needs healthcare. Their own base needs public education. Their own base needs clean air and fresh air. I mean, as they get rid of so many departments that have environmental protections. Yeah. And so I think that, they telegraph these things constantly by A, getting rid of the Department of Education, or at least trying to defund it to a shell of its former self. B, changing the Department of Defense to the Department of War. How can you say that you want peace when you have changed the name to the Department of War, when you have surrounded yourself with someone who's never seen combat, who thinks that this is a game, who doesn't understand not just the military personnel who have to go into these countries and stay and live there and risk their lives every day, but the military families who aren't getting the support and the funding that they need. The president constantly talks about things and just moves on, but remember those checks that he was supposed to send every military family? Whatever happened to that? What about the checks that he was supposed to just send to American people? What happened to those? So we're dealing with the man who cognitively we know is not well. Yeah. But the sad thing is he's surrounded himself with people who are aiding and abetting this behavior. And I use that terminology deliberately.
I have another half hour with Christina Greer, but during this first half hour of our conversation, Nicholas Maduro and his wife have just now appeared in U.S. court to face these narco-terrorism charges that the Trump administration used to justify capturing the president of Venezuela and his wife, and then bringing them to New York. Maduro and his wife were in court just a moment ago for a brief but required legal proceeding that has now kicked off what is going to be, you can bet, a prolonged legal fight of whether he can, in fact, be put on trial here in the U.S. And you should know, no surprise here, that he and his wife pled not guilty just moments ago in a U.S. courtroom to these charges. So they came. They pled not guilty, and they left, and they did all of that while Christine and I were talking in the first 30 minutes. So much more to go with her when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. The Alzheimer's Association provides care, support, and research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The UN Secretary Council meets today on Venezuela after U.S. forces capture President Maduro. Ambassador Mike Waltz told Fox's Sunday Morning Futures he expects debate over sovereignty, calling Maduro a drug kingpin.
I will remind everyone of Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which is a nation's inherent right to self-defense.
The UN Secretary General says he's deeply alarmed by the escalating crisis. Black Maryland Congressman Kwesi Mfume is blasting President Trump's military action in Venezuela, calling it an illegal invasion. Mfume says Trump should focus on rising costs instead of, quote, playing gangster president abroad. And the Atlanta Falcons have fired head coach Raheem Morris and GM Terry Fontenot after back-to-back 8 and 9 seasons. Owner Arthur Blank says it's time for new leadership. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36, LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
1 year ago, flames tore through Altadena and Eaton Canyon, changing lives forever. From the ashes, can a beloved community rise stronger? Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, host of First Things First, weekday mornings, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm inviting you to join us on Wednesday, January 7th, as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on the 1-year anniversary of this horrific and devastating fire. We're remembering those we lost, celebrating the heroes and sheroes who answered the call, and honoring the resilience of neighbors who are determined to rebuild together.
I've been a strong black woman a long time, and I can't just break down now.
Hear the stories of survival, the voices of recovery, the spirit of community that the fire couldn't destroy, and yes, the angst of those who still do not know where they go from here.
Yeah, where am I gonna go?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we don't just cover the story, we're part of this community, and we've done our level best to hold those responsible for this fire accountable. And 1 year later, we're still standing together.
It is my hopes that black people will rebuild those homes.
So join us live at Perry's Joint, 2051 Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 7th, as we commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Because some stories demand to be remembered.
This too shall pass.
This KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall is sponsored by LA Fire Justice.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Christina Greer, who is a political scientist, author, professor at Fordham University. Delighted to have her as our first guest of the year. And we are talking about the big story to kick off this year. And no, not the ball drop in New York City, not even the inauguration of Zohran Mamdani as the new mayor. We'll get to that in a second here. But the abduction of Nicholas Maduro and his wife, President and First Lady, formerly of Venezuela. They were just in court moments ago, in case you've just tuned in, to plead not guilty to these charges. Maduro said in court, "I was captured." Those are his words. "I was captured." He went on to say, "I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am a decent man." That's what he told the judge. "I was captured. I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am a decent man. That's what the deposed leader of Venezuela, Maduro, said in his not guilty plea, along with his wife, against all 4 counts against him, which include drug terrorism conspiracy, cocaine, importation conspiracy, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices. Those are the actual charges that were leveled against him today by the U.S. government in this era of Donald Trump 2.0. And he, again, and his wife pled not guilty to all of those counts. I repeat once again, he said that I was captured. I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am a decent man. Speaking of Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialist mayor now of New York City, inaugurated just a few days ago, he reached out to Donald Trump over the weekend to express his opposition to these Venezuelan attacks and the abduction of the president. Here now, Zohran Mamdani.
I called the president and spoke with him directly to register my opposition to this act and to make clear that it was an opposition based on being opposed to a pursuit of regime change, to the violation of federal and international law, and a desire to see that be consistent each and every day.
Here is Mamdani, just new into office, Christina, and he's putting himself in the epicenter of international politics. Your initial thoughts, and I want to play some sound from his inauguration speech in a moment. But again, he's the mayor of New York City, obviously a multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic metropolis, but he hasn't wasted any time in letting his voice be heard on international issues.
No, he can't. We know that the mayor of New York City in many ways is the second most powerful job in the United States, not just because of Wall Street and the financial epicenter that is here, but also, the number of international leaders who come through. We are home to the UN, but also Maduro is being held in a Brooklyn detention facility and is being, heard in a Manhattan federal court. So this affects New York City deeply, not just because of the resources that we will have to impart because Maduro and his wife are here, but the mayor has to answer some hard questions. During Mamdani's campaign, he called for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu and some of his alleged war crimes against the Palestinian people and so many people in that region. So this is a much larger conversation that the leader of New York, who is a Democratic Socialist, who has been very clear about the moral compass of not just he as an individual, but we as a city and we as a nation should have. So voicing that to the president was something that he felt that he needed to do. And we know that they have a very new but very tenuous relationship. Obviously, Donald Trump responds to popular people. He even commented how attractive Mamdani was when he went to the Oval Office and had their visit in D.C. But talking about affordable housing and real estate, which is the wheelhouse of the president, is one thing, but obviously talking about ICE interventions and international possible human rights violations, we know that they do not see eye to eye at all.
To Christina's point, so Trump calls Zohran Mamdani attractive, and Nicki Minaj over the holidays called Donald Trump attractive. I know, I'm throwing up in my mouth right about now. We'll talk about Nicki Minaj and her nonsense in the third hour of this program. And speaking of Netanyahu, Christina set me up for all these program updates. Speaking of Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu has gone on record publicly saying he supports Donald Trump and what he did in abducting Nicholas Maduro. No surprise there, but they're in this club together, Trump, Netanyahu, and others. And so Netanyahu has publicly stated that he supports and agrees with the decision by Donald Trump to abduct Nicholas Maduro. So that's what Netanyahu thinks of what Donald Trump has done. Here is now Zohran Mamdani as he took the oath of office as mayor of New York City.
I was elected as a Democratic Socialist, and I will govern as a Democratic Socialist. I will not abandon my principles for fear of being deemed radical. As the great senator from Vermont once said, what's radical is a system which gives so much to so few and denies so many people the basic necessities of life. We will strive each day to ensure that no New Yorker is priced out of any one of those basic necessities. And throughout it all, we will, in the words of Jason Terrence Phillips, better known as Jadakiss or Jay to the Moi, be outside. Because this is a government of New York, by New York, and for New York. Beginning today, we will govern expansively and audaciously. We may not always succeed, but never will we be accused of lacking the courage to try. To those who insist that the era of big government is over, hear me when I say this. No longer will City Hall hesitate to use its power to improve New Yorkers' lives.
I get a kick all the time, Christina. I see this every day, as do you, because you pay attention, as do I, as does this brilliant audience that we're talking to. But it never ceases to amaze me. I ain't hating on Zohran. It's just funny to me. The way in which black culture finds its way into everybody's mouth. You heard earlier on this program a clip of Pete Hegseth talking about FAFO. Maduro effed around and found out. So you got black culture in Pete Hegseth's mouth. Say that fast 3 times. And now you got Zohran shouting out Jadakiss? I mean, black culture is hegemonic. But anyway, your turn.
Yeah. Well, I think the black culture piece is a whole other podcast that we need to have.
Yes.
Or radio session. Just because a lot of people like to adapt.
Yeah.
But, to the new mayor's credit,
yes.
he's a millennial and he was also a former rapper.
Yeah.
So this does make sense for him. With the current administration, presidential administration, I think it is disgusting how they're using Biggie Smalls to show pictures of them, doing invasions. And they, dibble and dabble in hip hop culture when it makes their videos look better, since obviously they're a media campaign and without much thought into next steps. I mean, you mentioned Nicki Minaj briefly. It is not surprising, she is not a citizen, that she is cozied up and embedded herself with such odious individuals. I mean, she also, does not mind being married to a convicted sex offender. Her brother's also a convicted sex offender. And so it's not shocking that she would cozy up to a convicted sex offender as well. So there's, if you look at her social media, I think this is a path that we knew that she was going to go on quite some time.
Yeah. Mamdani has made clear how he intends to govern. But again, you teach this every day, and you've been around for a while. I've been around for a while. And you start out with that kind of bravado, and then along the way you start to moderate. What's going to keep Mamdani where he is now, saying that I was elected as a Democratic Socialist, and that's how I intend to govern? That's what he's saying today. What will he be saying tomorrow?
Well, I mean, we know that he's going to have tension from the right and also possibly from the left, if he does not satisfy the hopes and dreams of the Democratic Socialists. But I think so many folks are wondering why he's leaning into the label of Democratic Socialism, because so many people like the idea of affordability. They like the idea of free and fast public transit. They like many of his proposals. So why not just say, these are Democratic proposals? But I think it's because so many people in the Democratic Party have been so silent on issues of affordability, issues of human rights, domestically and internationally. So this is a way to distinguish himself. Keep in mind, the minority leader of the House and the minority leader of the Senate can barely say his name. Chuck Schumer still didn't endorse him, and Hakeem Jeffries did so just weeks before the election. So I think that this is a way to remind his supporters and to ask them to keep the pressure on him. It may be naive to do so. He's got a very short window to accomplish quite a bit before critics turn on him and start wondering, have we made a terrible mistake? But the good thing is he's coming in with tremendous goodwill. A few things. One, it looks like he wants to be mayor of New York City and isn't looking for another gig already, which many people felt Eric Adams was always doing, and definitely Bill de Blasio, who's running for the presidency while he was mayor.
Yep. I saw you. I'm sorry. Finish your part. Finish your part. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it also looks like he wants to work for all New Yorkers, as his inauguration speech was very clear. It's not just a conversation about the tale of two cities in the de Blasio aspect. It's really a conversation that Eric Adams started when he was inaugurated, saying, I'm going to pay attention to the people in the outer boroughs who haven't been looked at or discussed in years, decades even. So if Mamdani can actually surround himself with good people, which it looks like he has thus far, and actually listen to them, which is something de Blasio did not do, And Adams surrounded himself with some very good people and some very questionable individuals. So that made it much harder to trust the direction of some of his policies. But if Mamdani can listen to the good people that he surrounded himself with, some are new to these levels of power and some are actually veterans of the Adams, de Blasio, Bloomberg, and even Giuliani administrations that can help shepherd in a new generation of leadership in the city. We're now a quarter into the 21st century, and we want to think big and bold about these ideas. And yes, they will have price tags, but as my grandma said, if we can put a man on the moon, we can figure this out. Yeah. So I think that he's leaning into that, especially since he's got such positive energy coming in so far.
Christina's written a pretty interesting and powerful, I think, provocative piece in the New York Times, unpacking a bit more about what she just laid into regarding Eric Adams and how he governed versus Mamdani, even some analysis about Bill de Blasio, the last quote-unquote progressive mayor of the city of New York. So it's a piece in the New York Times. Just look up her name, New York Times, and you can read the piece as I did in preparation for our conversation today. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by some of the insights that she shares in that piece. When we come forward, there is breaking news today about Tim Walz. You remember Tim Walz, Kamala Harris's running mate for a brief time, late last, not last year now, 2024, I guess. But there is Tim Walz news, which we'll talk about with Christina Greer when we come forward on Tavis Smile.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. If you're struggling with mental health, you should know that there are resources out there that can help. And it's okay to talk about it if you need to. One place to get started with information is loveyourmindtoday.org. Loveyourmindtoday.org offers a range of guides, instructions, and insights for dealing with difficult situations or getting through a tough time. If you're struggling with mental health, get the help you need, because most people out here really care. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with the Fordham University professor Christina Greer. There is news on Tim Walz. Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, announced some time ago he was running for a third term. Today, he has announced he is dropping his re-election bid. He, of course, was the 2024 Democratic vice presidential nominee alongside Kamala Harris. He has cited heightened attention on fraud allegations in Minnesota, adding, and I quote, "The political gamesmanship we're seeing from Republicans is only making that fight harder to win," close quote. Amy Klobuchar, senator from Minnesota, is suggesting that she might be interested in running for the seat. She and Walz apparently met yesterday to talk about his stepping down, her stepping up. We'll see what Klobuchar has to say in the days ahead. But to some people, this already stinks, Christina, which is to say that it smells again. Here's another example of Democrats running from a fight.
Well, I think, I've never run for office, Tavis, so I'm somewhat, I try and give elected officials a touch of grace.
Sure.
Tim Walz is now dealing with accusations that, baseless accusations, I should say, that, he somehow was behind his colleague being murdered. I mean, this is the stuff that Republicans are putting out on their various social media feeds.
Mm-hmm.
I think after a certain point in time, Tavis, a lot of these public servants just get exhausted. And we now know that, he's being blamed for this baseless claim that Somalis are defrauding the government, and these miscellaneous claims, again, thought up by the Republican Party that kind of come out of nowhere in their various anti-immigrant sentiments. So I think the larger question I would have is, it looks as though this insider politics, if I'm a Democrat from Minnesota, are we going to have really a robust primary if Tim Walz decides not to run? Or is Amy Klobuchar just the heir apparent?
Yeah.
That would be my larger question of, can we have a real election with ideas as opposed to essentially passing what would appear to be passing of the baton from one solidified elected official to the next?
No, it's a good question. And I believe in elections, not coronations. I know you and I are simpatico in that regard. An election, not a coronation. But again, to use your word, it's baseless. These claims about the fraud are baseless. The claims about his being behind these murders are baseless. And that's my point, that here you are having run, with Kamala for the highest two offices in the land, and now Republicans are acting crazy and throwing stuff at you that really ain't sticking, and you decided, I'm out of here. Now, he certainly has agency to do that. He said he met with his family and decided this is the best option for him at this point in his life. I ain't mad about that either. But the optics on this are that Republicans are throwing stuff at you and you decide to take your ball and go home. I digress on that for now. Our remaining moments for Christina Greer when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Christina Greer. I've got 3 minutes left here, and I want to yield the balance of my time to her for her final thoughts on the following. This is an interesting week of anniversaries. Today is January the 5th, so it's our first day back live this year. And I look forward to a year of bringing you some amazing conversations with great guests like Christina Greer throughout the year. But on the 7th of January, just 2 days from now, we will commemorate the 1-year anniversary of these fires here in Southern California that the entire world watched. We have specifically kept our focus at my home station in L.A., KBLA Talk 1580, on Altadena. We certainly pray for all those in the Palisades and beyond who lost homes a year ago this coming Wednesday. But we've been keeping our focus like a laser on Altadena. So Wednesday is the 1-year anniversary of those fires. It cost lives and property damage and all of that and the drama. I just read the other day, over 70% of the people in Altadena are still not settled with their insurance companies a year later. Say nothing of rebuilding homes, not even settled with their insurance companies. That anniversary is on Wednesday. Our morning show here in L.A. will be broadcasting live from Altadena on Wednesday. That's the 7th, but tomorrow is the 6th. And you know what anniversary date that represents, Christina. I wonder in the last 2 minutes whether you can situate what it means for us to be in this mess. We started this hour talking about Venezuela and kidnapping a sitting president, and here we are tomorrow on the anniversary of January the 6th. Can you weave all that together for me in 2 minutes?
Yeah, well, I think that, it's a real reflection as to the failures of government. Obviously January 6th is one of the lowest points in the 21st century for American democracy, and having a sitting president essentially try and stage a coup on American soil in our nation's capital, which is a majority black city. And then we can move over to Altadena on January 7th and the Palisades, but I'm specifically thinking about Altadena and the historically black community that was in many ways destroyed, and so many people are still trying to rebuild and also fight with insurance companies and also fight to make sure the deeds come back to their families, which they so deserved. And we know that so many African-American families are house wealthy.
That's right.
But now that they no longer have the house, where does all that investment go that so many of their grandparents worked really hard for? A reminder that Altadena is a community, a black community, because so many blacks weren't allowed to buy in the city limits of Los Angeles. So, we can think about all the racial conversations that we can have that we're still having several generations later. Every policy in this country is based on race and racism when we really get to the core of things. But, Tavis, I'm always optimistic. Yeah. There's so many small groups in Altadena and across California that are doing work to make sure these families get back in their homes. Communities obviously came together in ways that, just show the resilience. I know some black people are exhausted, constantly needing to be resilient and rebuilding. Right. But we always have that in our spirit to do that. We're a community-minded group of people by and large, and we always look out for one another. So that has been inspiring, and I think the reminder, I appreciate that you running that ad constantly to remind people that January 7th is a way for us to also reflect and contribute to the rebuilding of a really important black community.
I am blessed to have a strong stable of contributors, none better than Christina Greer, so I am honored to have had her as the first guest of this new year. Political scientist, best-selling author, professor at Fordham University, podcast host for that matter, and check out her piece in the New York Times. Just Google her name in the New York Times, it'll pop right up. Christina, thanks for kicking us off this new year, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, have a wonderful one. Happy New Year.
We will kick off hour 2 with Dr. Cornel West. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The UN Secretary Council meets today on Venezuela after U.S. forces capture President Maduro. Ambassador Mike Waltz told Fox's Sunday Morning Futures he expects debate over sovereignty, calling Maduro a drug kingpin.
I will remind everyone of Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which is a nation's inherent right to self-defense.
The UN Secretary General says he's deeply alarmed by the escalating crisis. Black Maryland Congressman Kwesi Mfume is blasting President Trump's military action in Venezuela, calling it an illegal invasion. Mfume says Trump should focus on rising costs instead of, quote, playing gangster president abroad. And the Atlanta Falcons have fired head coach Raheem Morris and GM Terry Fontenot after back-to-back 8 and 9 seasons. Owner Arthur Blank says it's time for new leadership. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36, LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tavis Smiley, and as we do every Monday and Thursday at the top of the second hour, we are pleased to be in conversation with our dear friend and brother, the boys of our time, Dr. Cornel West. Dr. West, Happy New Year, sir. How are you?
Brother, it is a blessing that we made it through. We always count our blessing, even in the midst of this grimness and dimness, brother. We start with gratitude. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We start with gratitude for making it another year. I hear you. I hear the Isley Brothers Fight the Power. That's your walk-on song, the first song of the year.
That's exactly right, so brother. Because what we are experiencing coming out of the White House is the intensification of the gangsterization of the world, but it's also the intensification and the niggerization of black people, working people, and the third world. So we got to come up with ways of armoring ourselves in the face of the intense gangsterization and in the face of the intense niggerization. By niggerization, I just mean trying to convince people they're less beautiful, less moral, that they are inferior, trying to convince people to walk around with fear and feeling intimidated and feeling as if we don't have the power to fight, to resist, to be resilient, as Sister Christina was saying in that wonderful dialogue with you, my brother.
Yeah. So I started today's show at the top of the first hour, as I do every day, with our rundown of the day and who's going to be on in each of the hours or half hours. And so I said to the audience just over an hour ago, the Dr. West will be here, of course, at the top of the second hour, and we're going to talk a bit about Venezuela, primarily because Dr. West and I were honored some years ago to travel together to Venezuela to meet with Nicholas Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez. On that trip was Cornel West and yours truly and Danny Glover and Harry Belafonte and Dolores Huerta and Walter Mosley and a few others. But there were a group of us who were honored to be a part of this special delegation. And we traveled again to Venezuela to meet with, again, Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez. I had the honor, I guess, few years thereafter to interview Chavez a second time when he was in New York City for his annual address at the UN when all the world leaders show up in September. So I had the honor a couple of times to spend some time with Chavez, who, of course, died of cancer. When he dies of cancer, it opens the door for Maduro to become president. We all know now what's happened to Nicolas Maduro and his wife, abducted by the U.S. government in this, as I said earlier, territorial adventurism. He appeared in court literally just an hour ago, he and his wife, to plead not guilty. Just catching you up right quick here in case you're just tuning in. He was in court in the last hour or so to plead not guilty in New York City to 4 counts that have been levied against him, including drug terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns, and destructive devices. He said in that courtroom, I was captured. He said in that courtroom, I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am a decent man. The appearance was brief, but it was required, of course, and necessary. And so he has made his appearance in the first of any number of legal proceedings that are going to kick off, as I said earlier, a prolonged fight about whether or not he can, in fact, be put on trial in the U.S. Not a foregone conclusion at the moment that he can, in fact, be put on trial, but he has been arrested. He has been captured. He has now been indicted. He appeared in court and, again, pled, along with his wife, not guilty to these 4 charges that have been brought against him. Now, when we come forward, I want to start by asking Dr. West what he recalls about that trip to Venezuela that he and I were blessed to take together, and what he recalls about our meeting with Chavez inside the presidential palace there in Venezuela. And we will jump from there. But we'll start with Chavez, because you can't talk about how Maduro got there without talking about the guy who preceded him. So a little history lesson from Cornel West when we come forward about Hugo Chavez. Then we'll work our way to Maduro and work our way to the mess that we find ourselves in with America doing what it's always done, bullying people around the globe. You're listening, and I'm glad about it. Dr. Cornel West on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
BET and PBS, The Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. You like that? This is Tavis Smiley.
Tired of the same old sports talk? Ready to go where the real conversation happens? Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, host of Out of Bounds, the sports show that doesn't play it safe. Every Friday at 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, my co-host Neil Scarborough and I get you ready for the weekend. We take you beyond the highlight reels and into the stories that matter, the controversial calls, the game-changing plays, the athletes making headlines for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong ones. From the NFL to the NBA, college ball to the pros, if it's happening in sports, we're breaking it down with no filter and all opinion. Tune in to Out of Bounds with me, Ray Richardson, and my co-host Neil Scarborough, live every Friday at 6 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580. Because the best conversations happen out of bounds. KBLA Talk 1580, where Los Angeles talks.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Dr. Cornel West, as we are every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour. All right, Doc, I want to make the most of the time that we have. Let me just jump right in. So you and I had the honor of traveling to Venezuela. You recall that trip, sir?
Oh, my God. Very much so, my brother. Indeed, indeed. No, it was really a joy to be with Brother Hugo Chavez, who had tried to initiate and inaugurate the Bolivarian Revolution. It was simply an attempt to attack the overwhelming poverty in the country, to attack the foreign ownership of the oil, whose profits were going outside of the country rather than being used to empower poor and working people in education, empower them with jobs, empower them with free health care, and an attempt to try to restore the great dignity of a grand people. Now, you recall, of course, that one of the things that Hugo Chavez was concerned about was the U.S. had declared war on his revolution.
That's right.
So there were attempted coups. 2002, there were claims that he was illegitimate, but he was elected. Then they had referendums, and he had referendums, was reelected again. And so you had all the various lies told on the brother as he was trying to come to terms with the overwhelming poverty and foreign control of the minerals and resources of his country. Now, I've never met Maduro. Now, my hunch is, Maduro couldn't beat Chavez, because Chavez was a giant. There's no doubt about it. And he's a human being. He had his own failings, but he was a giant. Now, Maduro, I've never met him. It looks as if he tried to keep the Bolivarian Revolution going, but my hunch is the war against the Bolivarian Revolution continued, and then Maduro must have fallen into certain kinds, I don't know, whatever it is, corruption. I don't know exactly what the evidence is, but it just strikes me is that he was not able to sustain the same levels of support that Chavez did. And you've had, 8 million brothers and sisters leave Venezuela because of the sanctions, because of the various forms of war against the Bolivarian Revolution, and then now the gangster move. But the gangsterism was already in place. The coups have been in place for a long time, not just in Venezuela. Yeah. The United States has intervened in 30 of the 33 countries in Latin America. They viewed Latin America not just as the backyard, as the Monroe Doctrine of 1823 put forward, but free access to the resources, labor as well as natural resources of Latin America, as if they were simply people reduced to objects and land reduced to profit making. And that's the gangsterization that we're talking about. And of course, there's elective affinities to what the way in which Africa's been perceived, the way in which the genocide in Gaza, not human beings, just objects to crush, that we've seen in U.S. foreign policy in the last 100 years or so. So this is old-style imperialism. This is old-style gangsterism, and it ain't nothing new for black folk, because we've struggled with that version within the U.S. empire in terms of seeing our humanity supposedly reduced to just objects to be manipulated, enslaved, Jim Crow, hated, subjugated, dominated. But we continue to be resilient, and the people of Venezuela will continue to be resilient.
There's a lot that Dr. West has just laid out there, and I want to unpack some of that in a second here. But since you mentioned Gaza, there is some breaking news in this regard. And it's actually not breaking news today. It came out a few days ago. You may have missed it over the holidays. And I'll raise this now. We'll come back to it a little bit later in this conversation. But since Doc mentioned Gaza, and we mentioned Netanyahu earlier in this conversation, earlier in this show, I should say, Christina Greer mentioned it in the first hour, and I mentioned as well, Bibi Netanyahu has publicly announced that he supports and agrees with Donald Trump abducting Maduro and bringing him here to this country to face charges. So Netanyahu is on Trump's side in this issue. No surprise there. But here's what I want you to know, in case you missed it during the holidays, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced his country's plans to award the Israel Prize to, wait for it, Donald Trump, breaking with tradition to honor a non-Israeli and marking the first time that the highest prize in Israel will go to another country's president. So Donald Trump is going to be the recipient of the Israel Prize, the first non-Israeli to receive that distinct honor inside of Israel. We'll talk about that with Dr. West here in a few minutes here, but I just want to just share that with you since you mentioned Gaza and mentioned Netanyahu, if you didn't hear that news. So again, Donald Trump and Bibi continue their bromance, as it were. Again, put a pin in that for the moment. Let me circle back to this Monroe Doctrine that you mentioned. I mentioned it in the first hour. Donald Trump is chiding people every minute now. He's no longer calling it the Monroe Doctrine. He's calling it the Donroe Doctrine. So I ask you, where is the Donroe Doctrine going to take us? Where are we going to end up a few years from now, Doc, if he continues to advance this Donroe Doctrine in the way he's done it now in Venezuela?
Well, I think it ends up where all forms of gangsterization end up, though, brother. You end up doomed, running up against a wall and having the people awake, organized, mobilized, and have to engage in fundamental change and transformation. There's no way that any kind of positive force for good, democracy, or justice can survive when you got organized greed and weaponized hatred at the center of it. And that's what the gangsterization is, and that's what we've been seeing out of Trump for a good while. But it's not just Trump. We've been seeing this out of American foreign policy. And again, though, brother, it's not just Latin America. Now, see, it's complicated. For example, when we talk about Iran, you got Iranian brothers and sisters in the streets, too. It's being overshadowed right now with Venezuela. They're in the streets, too. Now, their government has been supportive of the Palestinians, and that to me is a positive thing, but their government itself is repressing and oppressing their people, and you end up with the U.S. government supposedly supporting the people of Iran, but no, they don't really want to support the people of Iran. They just want any government that is not critical of Israel and not critical of the United States. So we got to keep track of this awakening that's taking place across the board. And be anti-imperialist at the core of it.
Yep. You're right about the fact, and we all know this, of course, this is just another example of old-style imperialism. But give me your read of how you see Donald Trump uniquely leaning into this narrative of old-style U.S. imperialism.
Well, I mean, it's just who he is. He's being true to who he is, that he's a gangster, he's a bully, he's a thug. And old style imperialism was nothing but just the thugification of the world. When they sat down in 1883 in Berlin and said, we're going to divide up Africa based on drawing lines on a piece of paper, on a table, that was nothing but the thirdification of the world. And the vast majority of the people in the world live in the third world. They live in the global south, as is talked about these days. And we have to recognize that our destiny is tied to the global south. And so we think we can treat them like slaves, like colonized people, like subjugated people, like dominated people. Then we run up against the same wall that white supremacy ran up against in the 1860s, ran up against in the 1960s. Now, no, at the moment, we can say to ourselves, well, it looks like this evil is triumphing. Well, yeah, we are a wretched species, and it looks like greed and hatred is in the driver's seat. But keep in mind that it's a short-term affair. It cannot last. This too shall pass.
What's your sense of? I'm trying to track as fast as I can. I know you're doing the same thing. Trying to track as quickly as I can the way that other world leaders are responding to what's happened here. I mentioned what Bibi Netanyahu had to say about it. But what's your read? Again, this is nothing new, but here we find ourselves again in a moment where we are, bullying people around the globe, as Doc calls it, old-style imperialism. What's your sense of how, in this particular moment, this is going to be read? And I ask that question in part because, as you well know, you and I have discussed this before on this program, in our private conversations, we see Donald Trump's leading countries around the world. That is to say, we see these conservative voices, these voices full of hate, taking hold in leadership positions around the globe. So, at a moment like this, where there are people again in countries here, there, and everywhere that have Donald Trump-style leaders, I wonder whether or not, in a moment like this, we can count on or expect that other world figures will bemoan, will call this exactly what it is during Donald Trump's watch?
Well, it's a wonderful question, though, brother, because, see, part of the problem is that so many of the older leaders who are still in place believe that the rules-based international order, with international law and human rights being acknowledged and affirmed, still have some weight. But the reality is that rules-based international order has been completely has been completely called into question. Its legitimacy is radically called into question. Gaza is probably the turning point. It was clear that the nations don't give a damn about international law. They don't give a damn about human rights. They don't give a damn about rule-based international order, because when it was time to stand up, they didn't do it. So it's their hypocrisy that shows that you don't really have an allegiance to it. So when they call for the international laws to somehow regulate gangster activity of Trump in Venezuela, but they can't say a mumbling word about the U.S.-sponsored genocide mediated with Netanyahu, people say there's no moral authority here. So what we are in a moment where I would say it's the jungle, but then Anahita reminds me the jungle is much more based on harmony and equilibrium than lawlessness of human beings. And so we're in a jungle-like situation, and the only fundamental response has to be people on the ground, strong social movements, people organizing, raising their voices, and putting pressure on cowardly leaders. That's true in the United States. It's true in Latin America. It's true of the Arab countries in terms of their leadership tied to Trump, but the masses of their people in solidarity with the Palestinians.
Yeah.
It's true even, you see what I mean? So we have to keep track of the grassroots people, the ordinary people, not their corrupt, cowardly leaders. That's true across the world.
You said two things I want to give you a chance to unpack right quick here. Number one, I don't at all disagree with your critique of world leaders at the moment, but specifically I want to focus quickly on the United Nations. You used the term moral authority a moment ago. I wonder in a moment like this whether the UN, they're watching exactly what we're watching. They see what happened. I see some trying to raise their voices. I wonder whether or not, to your mind, the UN has any authority right now, moral or otherwise.
Brother, I appreciate you giving me that book by Brother Cal on Ralph Bunche. Bunche international figure, and I've got my own critique of Ralph, but he's still turning over in his grave because the internationalism in his own liberal mode that he was promoting, he knows has been radically called into question. The rug has been pulled under.
That's right.
And in that sense, when they talk about the United Nations is just so impotent, it's so empty, it's so hollow, and yet it's still something that can be a force for good if they get their act together. But at the moment, it just is unable to have the kind of authority, moral, spiritual, or political, on an international level that it ought to have, and it's a sad reality.
Yeah, Doc mentioned cowardly leaders a moment ago. Venezuela's interim president is a woman named Delcy Rodriguez. She has heretofore been known as a Chavista. We talked about Hugo Chavez earlier. She has been known as a Chavista, and that's a huge compliment inside of Venezuela. That's how she has been known, and she started out sounding that way, taking Donald Trump and the U.S. to task for this act of war. And now she's made a U-turn. I quote from her now, her latest post on Instagram. "We invite the U.S. government to collaborate with us on an agenda of cooperation oriented towards shared development within the framework of international law to strengthen lasting community coexistence," close quote. Donald Trump, his threats have gotten to her already, Doc.
Yeah, and it's hard to know exactly what's going on there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know Ruby acts as if he's either made a deal with her or somebody in the thing in terms of allowing them to even stay in power at the moment. But I must say that her initial speech is at the center of what I'm calling the Negroization of the third world, which is we will not be slaves.
That's right.
We will not be anybody's colony. We will not be anybody's subject to be dominated and subjugated. You see, that is the resistance to Negroization. That's the resistance to gangsterization. And those words, when they're lived out at levels of genuine resistance and opposition and organization and mobilization with a moral spirit and moral substance, but strong courage, that is something that we do want to highlight at this moment. I thought that speech was one of the most salutary in the last few days.
Yep. I got 60 seconds here. I close with this. I assume it was no surprise to you when Netanyahu announced that Donald Trump will be the first non-Israeli to receive the Israel Prize, Doc.
Brother, it's like one elected mafioso leader giving another elected mafioso leader a peace prize after they didn't kill thousands and thousands of folk, let alone genocide, and now old-style imperial invasion and occupation. Please, both of them get off the crack pipe, brother.
That's why we started and we close with the Isley Brothers. Fight the Power. It was the first walk-on song of Dr. West in this year. We'll do it again, Lord willing, come Thursday. Doc, love you. Talk to you soon. Stay strong.
Love you, brother. Stay strong, though, man.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. The Alzheimer's Association provides care, support, and research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time-to-talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Venezuelan President Nicholas Maduro is in a New York courthouse today, said to be arraigned on federal drug trafficking charges. FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency will continue to target drug traffickers.
We're not done. We are not going to just stop because of this monumental victory.
Maduro has been in U.S. custody since Saturday's overnight capture in Venezuela. A Georgia teen says police used excessive force after tasing him on a school bus. Black 18-year-old Lanier Johnson Hunt insists he followed the rules and posed no threat. The officer is off duty during an investigation, and the family may take legal action. And a missing Charlotte, North Carolina mother has been found dead. Police say Black 31-year-old Freesia Matisse Baker was discovered in her car in an abandoned church parking lot a week after she vanished. Investigators are asking anyone with information to come forward. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36, LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
He's a paradigm pioneer and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
America, we've got to wake up. You know, I don't doubt that Nicholas Maduro is a thug. I don't doubt that. But so is Trump. I don't doubt that Maduro is a criminal, but so is Trump. I don't doubt that Maduro rigged the elections, but so did Trump. I don't doubt that Maduro tried to silence his critics, but so has Trump. I don't doubt that he tried to enrich himself, but so has Trump. I don't doubt that he has weaponized the justice system, but so has Donald Trump. I don't doubt that Maduro has lied to his people, but I want you to know each and every day he looks in the camera and he lies to us. So has Donald Trump.
Everybody having their say about the abduction of Nicolas Maduro and his wife. They appeared in court earlier today for the first time, pled not guilty to the 4 charges brought against them. That is the voice, was the voice of Kevin Johnson, the pastor of the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. Of course, the church formerly pastored by Calvin Butts, and long before that, Adam Clayton Powell, the pastor of Abyssinian. So that famed church is now pastored by Kevin Johnson, and there Kevin Johnson went in yesterday on Donald Trump, as many other people are doing in all kinds of spaces, given this old-style American imperialism, this territorial adventurism, as I called it, as Dr. West called it, Dr. Cornel West, who was just on with us a moment ago. I'm pleased now to welcome journalist José Luis Granados Ceja, who covers Latin America for Drop Site News. He is in Mexico at the moment, I believe, but I think we've got him on the line. Jose, how are you today, sir? Good to have you on the program.
I'm very good. Thank you for having me, Tavis. A greeting to you and to your audience.
It's an honor to have you on this program. Dr. West, Cornel West was just on. He was making the point that over the years, the U.S. has involved itself historically in ways that we ought to be embarrassed by in 30 of, 33 or so Latin countries. So this is nothing new, but as one who covers Latin America for Drop Site News, let me just start with an overarching question and then we'll jump from there. What is your read? What can you share with us about the way you are covering this story?
So the place I would start is actually appreciate the way you introduced it, which is that President Nicholas Maduro was abducted. He was not detained. He was not arrested. This was not a lawful law enforcement operation. This was a brazen act of U.S. imperialism, an attack on Venezuela, an attack on its sovereignty, and I would argue an attack on Latin America more broadly. I think this was very much about Nicolas Maduro in particular. I think Marco Rubio in particular wanted to take an action against him. He seemed to have almost a personal vendetta against him, as he does against the Cuban leadership as well. But this is very much about the region. This is about the United States sending a signal about how it intends to conduct its foreign policy here in the Western Hemisphere. And that's the part that I think really should ring a lot of alarm bells. Trump has already threatened Cuba. He's already threatened Colombia. He seems to be suggesting some kind of action in Mexico as well. So it's time for Latin America and the Caribbean, I would say, as well, to pay attention to what's happening. It's a wake-up call in terms of how the U.S. is going to behave here in our neighborhood.
No naivete here, but to your point, your brilliant point, Jose, that this is a wake-up call for all of Latin America, even beyond, of course, Venezuela. What is the message? What is the wake-up call? What is Donald Trump saying to Latin American countries?
That he's going to engage in gunboat diplomacy, that this is not about the exercise of traditional understanding of what it is to have relations with respect for sovereignty as equals. No, the United States now, under this leadership, in this White House, wants to rule through might. And I think is showing that they're actually willing to carry out those threats. He not only is threatening these other countries, but he's threatening the acting president of Venezuela now, and seems to think that that's the way that he's going to be able to secure the access to Venezuela for U.S. oil companies by basically pointing a gun at Delcy Rodriguez, the acting president of Venezuela, saying, do as we say or else. And that should be read as a threat to everyone. And I think in particular, I would speak to the countries of the Caribbean, because we know that the United States has been engaging in this campaign of extrajudicial executions in the Caribbean and in the Eastern Pacific, but also trying to divide the leadership of the country, pinning leaders against each other. That is the absolute worst response possible. There has to be a coherent regional response. Unfortunately, that may not come. We know that there are many actors, leaders in this region who are very friendly and want to get cozy with Trump, who instead of viewing this as a threat, view it as an opportunity to kind of become closer to the United States. That is the absolute worst decision, because really, otherwise, the famous maxim of divide and rule is going to be carried out against every single country in this region. The only way we can stand up is by standing up together.
You mentioned Delcy Rodriguez, the acting president, the interim president of Venezuela right now. Earlier in today's program, you weren't here, of course, but earlier in today's program, I talked about a trip that I had to Venezuela some years ago to interview Hugo Chavez. I interviewed him at the presidential palace, interviewed him some years later at the UN when he was in this country for his annual UN speech, as all the world leaders are in September every year. And so I know something of Venezuela, spent some time there again with Chavez, the predecessor to Maduro. And Rodriguez, Ms. Rodriguez, the interim president, has been known and regarded, which is a compliment, as you well know, inside of Venezuela, as a Chavista. So she comes out of that Chavez tradition. And so she starts out strong in her pushing back against Donald Trump and this abduction. And to your point, Donald Trump then steps up and threatens her. He says in The Atlantic on Sunday, Donald Trump, if she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. I don't know what's bigger than Maduro in terms of being abducted and brought to the U.S. I don't know what's worse than that. But he threatened her, and since he threatened her, she has now sort of changed her tone. I quoted from her a moment ago during our dialogue with Dr. West. I quote from her again, and for those who may have just tuned in. Now she's saying, again, I quote from Ms. Rodriguez, we invite the U.S. government to collaborate with us on an agenda of cooperation oriented towards shared development within the framework of international law to strengthen lasting community coexistence, close quote. Now, I'm not naive. I know what happens when you get threatened by a U.S. president, but she's changing her tone. And again, if this is a message that Donald Trump is sending to Latin America, is this the way you expect or want, or that we should expect or want Latin American leaders to respond to Trump's threats?
No, I would hope that the response to Trump's threats is a greater sense of a need to better exercise the defense of sovereignty. To pick up on what some of her comments is, if he's saying something worse is going to happen, that sounds like a death threat to me.
Yeah.
Certainly. And so I think they are very much willing to engage, as he said in his press conference, in an even larger, more deadly strike. It's been really kind of unfortunate because of the coverage of this that we actually haven't had a lot of information out there in terms of how it went down. Obviously, the U.S. officials focused on the actions of U.S. service members of the Department of Defense and the rest and the other teams that were there. There were some injuries. There were no casualties on the U.S. side, but there were a lot of casualties, dozens of killed. In fact, there was Cuban security forces who were killed. Obviously, Cuba and Venezuela have a very close relationship. They were providing security for President Maduro. And Díaz-Canel, the head of the Cuban government, said that 32 members were killed. That's a bloodbath. There was clearly a very intense conflict here. And so if you understand that this is what happened in the early morning of Saturday, then when Trump says we're going to do something worse next time around, that threat has to be taken very seriously, which is why our response has to be, you cannot threaten people this way. I mean, I think I've been really discouraged by the fact that the multilateral organizations in the region and on the planet have been slow to respond. I made the case earlier today on a different program that I think the reason they felt emboldened to carry out this operation is because there wasn't enough pushback to the extrajudicial executions throughout the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. And now this has happened, we have to have a more forceful condemnation from anyone who's willing to do it. If the multilateral institutions are not willing to do it, I'm encouraged by the fact that at least we saw the statement from Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and Spain saying that this is unacceptable. We reject it, categorically. But there has to be more. How is it that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres hasn't been more forceful? His first statement was incredibly weak. His second one was slightly better, at least pointing the fact that a violation of international laws appears to have happened. But he has to name the aggressor. Otherwise, we are really setting up a condition here for a completely lawless planet. Is that the world we want to live in, where the only defense is a deterrent like nuclear weapons? I mean, are we going back to the kind of debates we had in the 20th century? I really feel like a lot of the situation, certainly in the region, but maybe on the planet, changed as a result of this, which is why the condemnation has to be more forceful.
Jose is a great reporter, and he's just asked some pretty provocative questions himself. I'm going to put those questions to him when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. If you're struggling with mental health, you should know that there are resources out there that can help. And it's okay to talk about it if you need to. One place to get started with information is loveyourmindtoday.org. Loveyourmindtoday.org offers a range of guides, instructions, and insights for dealing with difficult situations or getting through a tough time. If you're struggling with mental health, get the help you need, because most people out here really care. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and José Luis Granados Ceja, who is the journalist covering Latin America for Dropsite News. He just a moment ago asked a number of provocative questions that I would put in the category of what now, what next. I can tell you that the UN Security Council has held already today an emergency meeting on Venezuela. And before I get to those what now, what next questions, Jose, part of what troubles me, and again, this is kind of this is an old style American imperialism. So we've seen this before, and yet part of what's so troubling here, and it reminds me of what happened when we invaded Iraq all those years ago. We go in and we don't have an exit plan. And so we've gone in, we've kidnapped President Maduro and his wife. They are now in a Brooklyn detention center. They were in court again earlier today. But I don't think the Trump administration has a clue what to do next. Now, they know they want the oil. We were lied to that it was about drugs. It was never about drugs. It's about the oil. Everybody knows that. But I don't get the sense that they have a plan whatsoever of what to do next.
I agree with you. It's not clear. I don't think they have a plan at all. And I think what we're seeing is them kind of making up along as they go and using violence as the cornerstone of that policy. It seems like what they want in order to avoid putting boots on the ground, although apparently he's more than willing to do that, in order to avoid another foreign war, another military adventure, to try to coerce the successor here, Delcy Rodriguez, to do their bidding. I find that scenario very difficult to believe. This is not somebody who came out of nowhere. As you said, she comes from the inner circle of Chavismo. She comes from a family of leftists. Her father was assassinated by a U.S.-backed Venezuelan regime many years ago at this point now. And so what do they intend to do if she doesn't play their game? Are they going to carry through on this assassination threat that they seem to have issued against her? Also, there's a factor that has to be taken into consideration when we think about Venezuela, is that, sure, there has been a succession. The Supreme Court of the country has authorized her to be the acting president given the circumstances, but there are other important actors inside of Chavismo itself, and if she is seen as doing the bidding of U.S. imperialism, there's going to be a reaction from those other elements inside of Chavismo, but also from the revolutionary grassroots. We have to understand that there are very well-disciplined, organized collectives, organizations throughout the country who still will defend to the very last minute their socialist project. So anything that's read as a betrayal would also be met with a response internally. And to me, that what suggests is that this is a very unstable situation. Things can change very rapidly. We're still kind of picking up all the pieces here. But one thing I would say is that the message, at least from what I've been hearing from people on the ground in Venezuela right now, is that the stress is unity. Because if things start to fall apart, we could actually be before a scenario where the actual territorial integrity of Venezuela is in question, where they try to actually promote not regime change, but state collapse to try to secure access to the resources in one part of the country and split it up, the balkanization of a country. This would be an even worse scenario for the region, because that would also become one of the possibilities for the U.S. to be able to exercise direct control over these resources that it so craves.
Our remaining moments with Jose when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power
smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Come to
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Let the dogs out! Tired of the same old sports talk? Ready to go where the real conversation happens? Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, host of Out of Bounds, the sports show that doesn't play it safe. Every Friday at 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, my co-host Neil Scarborough and I get you ready for the weekend. We take you beyond the highlight reels and into the stories that matter. The controversial calls, the game-changing plays, the athletes making headlines for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong ones. From the NFL to the NBA, college ball to the pros, if it's happening in sports, we're breaking it down with no filter and all opinion. Tune in to Out of Bounds with me, Ray Richardson, and my co-host Neil Scarborough, live every Friday at 6 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580, because the best conversations happen out of bounds. KBLA Talk 1580, where Los Angeles talks.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed for 2 more minutes in this hour with José Luis Granados Ceja, who is the reporter covering Latin America for Dropsite News. I'm deeply appreciative for his time. I know everybody's after him. You heard him mention earlier. He's done other interviews today. He was top of our list. He is the guest that we wanted to have on in this half hour to bring us up to speed on where we are now. So, Jose, thank you again for your time. Again, I know a lot of people are after you today. Donald Trump has been, as I said earlier, chiding people with not the Monroe Doctrine, but the Donroe Doctrine. So he's putting it all in our faces. He's being not at all shy or bashful about what he intends to do in Latin America, the point you made earlier. So in the 2 minutes I have left, I want to yield to you. What are you watching? What are you paying attention to? And what ought we be keeping our eyes on in the coming hours, days, weeks, and months?
I think the most important immediate thing right now is to pay attention to the stability of Venezuela. Things are precarious. A lot of things can happen in this moment. Want to ensure, as I was talking about just earlier, about ensuring the territorial integrity, about the exercise of sovereignty, and about the message being sent that this is not an acceptable action. This is a new phase for Latin America and the Caribbean in its relations with the United States. And I think there has to be very urgent action by all of us to understand what that means in terms of how we actually relate to this. You know, he's already threatening other countries. This is very serious. This appears to be only the beginning, not just for Venezuela, but for all of Latin America and the Caribbean. And that's the part I think we need to pay attention. That's why I'm so grateful to you, Tavis, for having me on here to talk about this, because the more we can talk about it, the better. People need to understand just what a huge violation, a gross action this was, and not stand for it. And I think also to call on the institutions inside of the United States to also push back against this. There are not the Congress, the judicial branch of government, you know, to say this was an illegal detention. This was an illegal act of aggression against a sovereign nation. This is not how we want to have our country represented on the global stage. I think that part is also important as well, and I appreciate your part in all of this and getting this message out.
I got you on speed dial now, Jose. We'll be talking a lot in the next few months, I think, as the story develops. Thanks for taking our call today. We'll talk again soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you on the program. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Venezuelan President Nicholas Maduro is in a New York courthouse today, said to be arraigned on federal drug trafficking charges. FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency will continue to target drug traffickers.
We're not done. We are not going to just stop because of this monumental victory.
Maduro has been in U.S. custody since Saturday's overnight capture in Venezuela. A Georgia teen says police used excessive force after tasing him on a school bus. Black 18-year-old Lanier Johnson Hunt insists he followed the rules and posed no threat. The officer is off duty during an investigation, and the family may take legal action. And a missing Charlotte, North Carolina mother has been found dead. Police say black 31-year-old Freesia Matisse Baker was discovered in her car in an abandoned church parking lot a week after she vanished. Investigators are asking anyone with information to come forward. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36, LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
One year ago, flames tore through Altadena and Eaton Canyon, changing lives forever. From the ashes, can a beloved community rise stronger? Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, host of First Things First, weekday mornings, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., here on KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm inviting you to join us on Wednesday, January 7th, as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on the 1-year anniversary of this horrific and devastating fire. We're remembering those we lost, celebrating the heroes and sheroes who answered the call, and honoring the resilience of neighbors who are determined to rebuild together.
I've been a strong black woman a long time, and I can't just break down now.
Hear the stories of survival, the voices of recovery, the spirit of community that the fire couldn't destroy, and yes, the angst of those who still do not know where they go from here.
Yeah, where am I go?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we don't just cover the story, we're part of this community, and we've done our level best to hold those responsible for this fire accountable. And 1 year later, we're still standing together.
It is my hopes that black people will rebuild those homes.
So join us live at Perry's Joint, 2051 Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 7th, as we commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Because some stories demand to be remembered.
This too shall pass.
This KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall is sponsored by LA Fire Justice.
Fly with the stars in the skies. I am no longer trying to survive. I believe that life is a prize, but to live doesn't mean you're alive. Don't worry about me and who I fire. I get what I desire, it's my empire. And yes, I call the shots, I am the umpire. I sprinkle holy water upon the vampire. In this very moment I'm king. In this very moment I slay Goliath with a sling. This very moment I bring, put it on everything, that I will retire with the ring, and I will retire with the crown. Yes, no, I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. Yes, clap for the heavyweight champ, me, but I couldn't do it all alone.
Nicki Minaj, Moment for Life. We're going to talk about Nicki in just a second here after I tell you that in this third and final hour of our program today, 2 conversations on the B-side. We will close today's dialogue with a spiritual writer, author, and wellness educator, Lalah Delia, on how we can enter this year, this new year, with clarity, steadiness, and inner alignment. All the stuff that Nicki Minaj apparently ain't got right about now. No steadiness, no clarity. Maybe she does have clarity. She's down with Donald Trump. I don't know. Apparently no inner alignment, but I digress on that. For now, I am pleased to welcome to this program Oklahoma State University philosopher and co-director of the Africana Studies Program there, Professor Lawrence Ware, to talk about Nicki Minaj's MAGA flirtation over the holidays. He has written a rather provocative and interesting piece for The Root. It is titled, Nicki Minaj's MAGA support shouldn't surprise you. Her true colors have been visible for years. The subtext or subtitle, Nicki Minaj's recent MAGA alignment has some black folks shocked and calling her crazy for the sudden move, but her behavior over the years has consistently foreshadowed her political leanings. Professor Ware, good to have you on. How are you today, sir?
Good to be here. So happy to be on with you. You're one of my heroes. So good. So happy to be on with you.
You are kind. Thank you for saying that. Let me just make the most of the time we have. Take me inside your piece, and I've got questions, but just set the frame for me, sir.
Well, honestly, I was looking at what Nicki Minaj did by going on to the Turning Point stage with Erica Kirk, and I was surprised by how many people were shocked by her behavior, and it showed me that there was this kind of misunderstanding of who she has always been. And so what I did is I really had so much more, but I went down and wrote down the things that she had been kind of foreshadowing her Republican leanings and her kind of flirtation with the MAGA movement. And then I kind of concluded by saying, look, this is who she has always been. Mm-hmm. And if you have not been noticing this, you just weren't paying attention to what she's been saying for the past, 10, 15 years.
Tell me more about some of those flirtations, Professor Ware.
Well, back in 2012, we had at that point the first black president. And back then she said, and it may have been tongue in cheek, but she said on Lil Wayne's dedication, a song on there called Mercy, she said, I'm a Republican voting for Mitt Romney. You lazy bees are sure effing up the economy. And she later said that was a joke, but that was right in the middle of Barack Obama's re-election campaign. And so it got me thinking. And then beyond that, 3 years later, 2015, she began to start talking about how she was kind of open to what Trump was saying. She said to Billboard, there are points that he has made that he has not, that have not been conveyed, properly if he had just kind of been a little bit more grown up. He had been so childish. So 2015, she's saying Trump's making some good points. Then fast forward 2020, right? And she has a little bit of a falling out. She doesn't like much of what Trump is doing. But then back in 2025, last year, around November, she really started to kind of go all in on the MAGA stuff. She started to repost stuff from the White House TikTok account. She kind of to speak out at the United Nations on behalf of MAGA. And that's really what I would call her MAGA coming out party, was in November of last year. She really came out very strong, very vociferously in favor of MAGA. And she has since kind of backed away from that. And we can talk about why that was, but she's kind of since tried to kind of back away from it, not be as MAGA forward, but she is who she is.
Yep. What do you make of the setting? You made it abundantly clear for those who didn't see the story when it happened, where she was when she made these comments, and even, just going overboard, calling Donald Trump attractive and all of that nonsense. But she's on a Turning Point stage with Erica Kirk, the wife of the late Charlie Kirk. Right. What do you make of the setting that she chose to just go all in?
I really can't make sense of it. Honestly, it reads as though, the thing is, Nicki Minaj is incredibly popular right now. It may feel like she's fallen off, but she's really in the forefront of selling stuff. And, Bees in the Trap was a big song last year. It's crazy how she's still kind of in the forefront, but maybe it felt, at least to me, like maybe she was trying to cater to that kind of audience and try to get some of those people on her side, listening to her music. Maybe that was what was going on. On the other hand, maybe she was just trying to come out and be who she genuinely is. And she's trying to do it in a setting where it would be the most receptive. I genuinely don't know, but she's coming off to me like the rap version of Candace Owens.
Yep. She has lost millions. Last time I saw it was like 7 million.
Yeah.
And the number's probably high. She has lost millions of followers because of this. How do you think she's calculating what she did?
I think she's regretting it. And the reason why I say that is because there's been all these petitions that have jumped up calling for her to be deported. Right
I saw
at
that.
this, recently it was as high as 120,000 signatures on this petition calling for her to be deported. Now, they're not going to deport her, but it kind of shows that there's like this backlash to what she's doing. And since that has kind of gained steam, you've noticed she's kind of pulled back. She's not as MAGA forward. She's not praising Donald Trump. She's not doing any kind of big speeches in favor of what's going on. And I think it would be unwise of her, particularly because of what's happened in Nigeria and then, of course, what's happened in Venezuela. But nevertheless, like she's kind of pulled back once this kind of got some steam. So I think that she's definitely recalculating. Now, I think in her heart of hearts, if I'm being honest, and I'm not a mind reader, but in her heart of hearts, I think she's a MAGA. I really do think she is. I think she's always been kind of in that lane. But publicly, she may not be as vociferous about that, particularly because there's been so much backlash to what she's done.
Yep. To be clear, she's not the first person in the hip-hop game to come out and express adoration or admiration for Donald Trump. There are many other males in this game who have done that. So when we come forward, I want to give Professor Ware a chance to help us look at this through a gender lens, if we can do that. We're talking to Lawrence Ware out of Oklahoma State about Nicki Minaj on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to tavistalks.com right now. That's tavistalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
BET and PBS, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. You like that? This is Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
More honesty than you can handle.
More empowerment than you can imagine.
You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Lawrence Ware, University professor of philosophy at Oklahoma State, co-director of the Africana Studies Program there, has written a pretty interesting piece about Nicki Minaj for The Root. Once again, in case you've just tuned in, it's titled, Nicki Minaj's MAGA support shouldn't surprise you. Her true colors have been visible for years. Her recent MAGA alignment has some black folks shocked and calling her crazy for her sudden move, but her behavior over the years has consistently foreshadowed her political leanings. You can read that piece at The Root and get more of the backstory for what you should have seen coming from Nicki Minaj once she got on the stage with Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, and went all in, went full MAGA. So I mentioned a moment ago that I wanted to get Professor Ware to look at this through a gender lens. I haven't even gotten yet to the spiritual lens. But when I said that, my boy out Miles got in my ear in my headphones. Miles, what did you say? What was that what was that reference you made about Nicki's music?
I said we are watching with our own two eyes WWE, y'all. White woman entertainment. She's capping for the white women, y'all. That's my opinion.
Wow. Professor Ware, your thoughts?
I mean, the brother's making an interesting point. I just don't know how many white women are going to jump on board that Babs train, particularly with the kind of music she's making. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he might be right. Maybe that is what she's trying to do. She's trying to get on board with that white people. You might be right, brother.
Yeah. What about Miles? Let me just do Miles. Get on mic real quick. So Miles is my board op, and when he's not here, he is a rapper himself. He dropped a pretty amazing project last year, as a matter of fact. Was that
I'm gonna check him out.
Imagine that.
Imagine that was the project he just dropped.
I'm gonna check you out, brother.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
He dropped Imagine That last year. Why do you think that her music, Miles, would even appeal to that particular segment of our society?
I don't think she's even stepping. I don't think she stepped on that stage as a musician. I think she's trying to go a little past the musician part of her life. I see the income being a part of it. And just the way she was communicating. That's not how you communicate when you're talking to Jay-Z and when you're talking to Charlamagne and when you're cussing out Cardi B. That's how you talk, and you're getting those characters, that little voice when you're trying to talk to the kids about, you know what I mean? Like all that type of character that she puts into it kind of show me that you're in character. You're not necessarily here as the Nicki Minaj we know and have seen over the years, in my opinion.
So, Professor Ware, I said a moment ago, and we obviously all agree on this, the data is incontrovertible. She ain't the first person in hip-hop to embrace Donald Trump.
Not at all.
To kiss up to Donald Trump. But help me understand this through a gender lens, if you will.
All right, this is where people might get mad at me. Because black men, honestly, for a while have been really either flirting with Trump or outright been down with Trump. Like, if you remember, Snoop Dogg performed at his crypto ball. Of course. Right? Yeah. Rick Ross headlined the 2025 Young Black Republican Halloween party.
That's right.
And he performed at the second Trump inauguration. We know Kanye West is Kanye West, but he's been down with him. Mm-hmm. Lil Wayne endorsed Trump in 2020. Kodak Black expressed his, support for Trump. And I think that might have been motivated by his presidential commutation. Sure. But the point is, black men have definitely been in line with Trump. Either behind scenes or, in front of the scenes, they've been kind of flirty with Trump. Now, many black women have not, because honestly, black women have better sense than we do. And the reality is that for Nicki Minaj to come out, she's kind of not Christina Milian, was that who it was? Whoever it was, Chrisette Michele. Mm-hmm. She performed, and her career was essentially over.
That's right.
After she did that. But Nicki Minaj is kind of the first black woman to kind of really come out and really be vocal from a music space in favor of Trump. And I think she's getting a lot of backlash because of that gender part. Because, Snoop Dogg, we still love that dude. Rick Ross, we still riding with him. Mm-hmm. Kanye West, some people may not be down with him as much. Yeah. But a lot of black men have not faced the kind of backlash that Nicki Minaj has faced. And I do think that gender plays a role in that.
What does that say to you about the sexism that still exists and persists in hip-hop? Mm-hmm.
It just says that black women are not allowed to do as much as black men are. Black men are forgiven for some of the things that they say as long as we like their music. Black women, not so much. Nicki Minaj is very popular. Nicki Minaj is a platinum-selling artist. Nicki Minaj is a millionaire, but Nicki Minaj is still a black woman. And being that she's a black woman, she's going to face the backlash if she steps in this space. Now, Snoop Dogg, his backlash should have been significantly worse, but we still crip walk into his stuff, right? Yeah. Rick Ross, his backlash should have been very bad, but I don't even know how many people know what Rick Ross did. Nicki Minaj does it, It's now worldwide news. Now, it may be the stage. I mean, she did go on a big stage and do it.
Sure.
But it's now worldwide news, and she's facing all this backlash. And I don't agree with her, but I do think that the backlash she's facing is significantly worse than any backlash that men have faced.
So I'm not naive about this at all, and I ain't stuck on stupid. Let me just say that up front here. And yet, the thing about hip-hop that I love is that these rappers at their best give us insights. You see their creativity when they start spitting their rhymes, right? And you say, man, I never thought about it in that way, never processed it in that way. So I see insights often inside of this particular music genre. And yet, we're talking about the flip side of that now with Nicki. She was so tone deaf as a black woman. You have to know that all these black women that lined up behind Kamala Harris in this last election, and all these white women that abandoned, frankly, black women and, frankly, their own best interest when they, white women, supported Donald Trump, you had to know that when you did that, if you didn't get in trouble with nobody else, black women were going to come for you.
Absolutely.
How can she be so tone deaf about that?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have access to the inner workings of her mind, but she should have seen it coming. Like, she should have seen and she should have known that black women in particular are going to turn their back on her the moment she came out in favor of Donald Trump. Like, particularly after the year that we had a hellish year in America, you know, last year. And at the end of the year, that's when you choose to come out and cape for this man. I don't know what was going on in the inner workings of her mind. I mean, maybe she's trying to, as the brother said, cater to white women, trying to get those white women on board. But as far as her core constituency, black women, they are done with her. A lot of them are really done with her. They don't want anything more to do with her because of her political leanings. And I think it was a severe miscalculation on her part.
Yep. So I believe, and even when people are wrong, dead wrong, as Nicki Minaj is, I believe in doing my best, as I say, to save some space for grace. Save some space for grace. And I say that because as I listen to those comments, as I watched her on that stage with Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow, I saw her making an effort. And Miles, my board operator you spoke to earlier, and I have had our own back and forth about this because he thinks it's fake. And there was nothing real about this. But I tried to listen to her as she expressed herself and her point of view through a spiritual lens. And obviously there are a whole lot of black people who agree with Donald Trump on certain moral issues. He is an immoral person. But if you come from if you come at this from a vantage point of Christology, I obviously been black my whole life, as have you, and so we understand on certain issues, certain moral issues. That you can see perhaps the way that Nicki was trying to express herself politically, if that is rooted in her spiritual beliefs. Did you hear and see what I saw, and did you buy it? Because Miles didn't.
You know, coming out of the black church, and I've been a minister for many years, I do see this strain of conservatism out of the black church that honestly many black folks kind of bought into Donald Trump's kind of rhetoric.
That's right.
Initially.
That's right.
And I can see how maybe Nicki Minaj got confused and got convinced. I was trying to find the right word, man, because
I felt you searching. I felt you searching for it, man.
I can see how she got confused by this, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you, man, I'm on your producer side, man. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I mean, when I listen to her music is not, it ain't India Arie out here. It's not Jill Scott.
Yeah.
Like, she is not in line with any kind of Christian ethic that I've ever been aware of. Like, she is so far gone from that. And so for someone to say to me the reason why she was kind of enamored by Donald Trump is because of his moral, teachings or whatever he says he is morality in the case of morality, I don't buy that, and so I just don't think that this was genuine. I don't think it's coming from a genuine place. I do think it's a calculated move. I think it was a misstep on her part, but is it coming from a good place spiritually? I don't buy that, not at all.
Does any of this have any impact on black voters writ large? And I raise that because you'll recall on the first night of spit it out, Tavis. The first night of the Republican convention in Milwaukee, when Donald Trump was renominated. I call it the Black Night. You recall that first night they tried out all these Negroes on night one, all these black people. And what's the other lady's name that was on the other? What's the other rapper? Kanye's ex-girlfriend, Amber Rose. Yeah, Amber Rose. Amber Rose is there. Yeah. So everybody was there on that first night. All these black people, sort of getting Byron Donalds and everybody else, sort of getting Donald Trump's back. And I ask this because sometimes when we black people individually go off the range, the rest of us suffer as a result of that. Somebody put it this way: when and where we enter as individuals, the whole race enters with us. When and where we enter, we drag everybody else with us. Nicki Minaj, as you've already established, ain't even an American citizen, really. She's not even from here. And yet I wonder about the fallout or about the way that we might be misjudged because of what Nicki Minaj had to say. Do you expect that there's going to be any backlash or blowback on the rest of us, given what Nicki had to say?
I think there might be. I think that it is certainly a possibility there'll be some backlash. But let me put you on game here. Let me tell you something real shocking that I was surprised to find. So Nicki Minaj did the thing with the United Nations in November. I was still having class at that point. We weren't off to Christmas break. And I teach a class at Oklahoma State University on philosophy of race, so a lot of black people take that class. And I had a number of black young ladies come to me and said, I have always liked Donald Trump, and Nicki Minaj had kind of proven that I can do so and still be black. That is what they said to me in my class. I'm talking about 10 young ladies, and this wasn't in the middle of class, it was after class. They came to me, they talked to me, and they said that. I don't know what to make of that. So maybe there's always been this strain of conservatism in Black America, right? But Donald Trump seems to go too far. But it seems as though maybe Nicki Minaj is giving permission for some young black ladies, not all, of course, but some young black ladies, and it could be the fact I'm in Oklahoma, to kind of maybe start flirting with Donald Trump. And of course, Donald Trump, we hope, will not run for another round of presidency. But whoever comes after him, maybe they may be a little bit more open to him because they see that it's okay to be conservative and yet also be black, and they think that Nicki Minaj is showing them a way to do that. That's what really took me back. I haven't written about that, but that really took me back for them to say that to me.
To your point, you hope he doesn't run. He can't run unless he tramples the Constitution, and Donald Trump might not be above doing that.
He might not.
He said he didn't care about the Constitution in Venezuela when he went and kidnapped Nicholas Maduro. But that's another conversation. We've already had that conversation today. Let me circle back. I got 2 minutes left here. Let me circle back to these sisters in your class who expressed that point of view to you, and I'm glad I heard you slide that in there. I was just about to ask whether or not you think that is the case because we are talking about Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it is. Oklahoma has a deep strain of conservatism, as you know. I'm sure you well know. It's a very red state.
Sure.
Although you would be surprised how many black pockets of resistance there are here. Boley, Oklahoma, all the kind of stuff that's happening here in Oklahoma from the black community that people just don't know about. But the point is that a lot of people are kind of surrounded by this kind of white ethos, and that ethos seriously leans towards the Republican side. So I do think that it might just be an Oklahoma thing. But I would not be surprised at all if it kind of conveys what's happening kind of writ large. If it doesn't kind of begin to bleed over to what's happening in Pennsylvania, will it bleed into what's happening in Virginia? I would not be surprised at all because I do think that she's giving people permission to be MAGA and a black woman at the same time. And that's kind of powerful.
Yeah. I offer this as the exit question with 60 seconds to go. She has now seen the backlash and the blowback for her comments. And she has to, calculate how much damage she has done. My exit question is, can she, in the weeks, months, years to come, recalibrate?
Oh, of course she can.
Yeah.
And I think that black people, particularly her fans, they love her. And so if she recalibrates and she says, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, whatever, we'll receive her with open arms. I just don't know if she will.
Yeah.
I don't know if she will.
We shall see. What I know is that you put good music out, people forgive you for a lot of, they forgive you for a whole lot of mess, man. So we shall see what kind of music she keeps putting out and whether or not she does, in fact, recalibrate into the future. Lawrence Ware is a professor of philosophy at Oklahoma State University and co-director of the Africana Studies Program at that fine institution. Professor Ware, good to have you on. Thanks for the insights. Thanks for the piece that you can find at The Root. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. The Alzheimer's Association provides care, support, and research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Venezuelan President Nicholas Maduro is in a New York courthouse today, said to be arraigned on federal drug trafficking charges. FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency will continue to target drug traffickers.
We're not done. We are not going to just stop because of this monumental victory.
Maduro has been in U.S. custody since Saturday's overnight capture in Venezuela. A Georgia teen says police used excessive force after tasing him on a school bus. Black 18-year-old Lanier Johnson Hunt insists he followed the rules and posed no threat. The officer is off duty during an investigation, and the family may take legal action. And a missing Charlotte, North Carolina mother has been found dead. Police say Black 31-year-old Freesia Matisse Baker was discovered in her car in an abandoned church parking lot a week after she vanished. Investigators are asking anyone with information to come forward. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36, LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
December deal drops at Lowe's are wrapping up, but there's still time to snag something worth bragging about. Get up to 40% off select major appliances. And members save an additional $100 on a new and exclusive Samsung French door refrigerator, now just $18.99. Need new tools? Select tools and accessories are up to 45% off this week. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/24. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowe's.com/terms for details.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code STATE.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
It is indeed. We have made it to the final half hour of the first live program of the year, and we close in conversation with Delia, spiritual writer, best-selling author, wellness educator. We invite her on this program every year around this time to help us make sure we enter the new year, with clarity, steadiness, and inner alignment. Layla, good to have you on once again. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Tavis. How are you? And it's so good to be here again.
It's good to have you on. I'm doing well. If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I should also mention that Layla has a best-selling book that is on my bookshelf, and I recommend it for yours. It's called Vibrate Higher Daily. Live Your Power. Vibrate Higher Daily. Live Your Power. We've been talking for the better part of 3 hours today about all the drama that's happening in our world right about now. And so I ask you at the outset of this conversation how we vibrate higher daily in the midst of all this madness, Layla.
Yes, it's so important, Tavis. And of course, I would rather be no place but here talking about this at the first of the year. Our cortisol levels, our stress response, our nervous system possibly have taken a hit with the news, with the developments, but there is much we can do. And I look forward to talking about that with you this segment. The number one thing is to watch your breathing. When you feel yourself breathing fast or breathing very intensely, when you notice your shoulders are tensing up, you've been staring at your phone or scrolling, doom scrolling as we call it, for a long time, stop, drop, and tune out. Do a self-care check, because we know that if we just feed ourselves all of these headlines a little too much throughout the day, we are losing touch with our balance. And in order for us to make a change, first of all, in our own lives, but let alone outside of ourselves, we have to approach it from a state of mindset, being in control and in power of our mindset. So there's a way that we can do this. There's a way that we can keep up with everything and still be well and still have a powerful mindset for all the other things that we look forward to seeing and manifesting this year for ourselves.
Talk to me about how we ensure that we do not lose touch with our balance. And I asked that question in part because, as you mentioned, this stuff is coming at us so fast. And it's always the case. I don't mean to make you political, so you'll take my point in a second, though, that when we are in an era of Donald Trump, this isn't the first time we've done this, stuff is coming at us so fast all day long. It's like every other minute, our phones are beeping with new breaking news. And so we have to be intentional, it seems to me, about checking out sometimes because stuff is coming at us so fast. So I wonder if you might say a word a bit more here about how we ensure that we don't lose touch with our balance in the months to come.
Yeah, and I want to say that many of us have done this before. If we take a look at our own history, our own lives, where think about your high school years, your friendship circles, possibly even your family. Where have you had to set boundaries that this is enough? I won't continue to pour into this, right? Or I have to tune out now. This is too much.
Yeah.
Those are all pieces of where we have set boundaries in order for our mental health and our well-being and our own energy field to come back into that balance. So these are things like when you see the headlines, for instance, myself, I'll just put myself right out here. When I see the president doing things that I know is polarizing and that I know is not a good choice and that I know is enraging someone, if not myself,
Yeah.
I just am aware instantly of who it is, right? Like, of course he's doing this. This is who it is. I don't expect anything less. And it really gives your power back to yourself. It's where I don't have any expectation for this person to do anything better. So that way you don't set your expectations up for failure. Now, we don't apply this to everyone, but when it is someone who is chronically polarizing to us, chronically stressing the nation out, they don't deserve to have that level of expectation in you when you are not able to give it. Now, I do want to say, if you find that you have the capacity and the nervous system and the tools, the skills to hold grace for someone, please do, right? Because we need people on the sidelines holding grace, seeing a better world, praying for our leaders, as the good book tells us to.
Oh, yeah.
But then we also keep it real, and we know that those are out there. Those of us are either on that spectrum or on the other spectrum where we're not there yet, right? We're not, I can't pray for it yet, or I can't hope for better yet. I'm too close to it and it's stressing me out too much. Let's just find the happy medium, the wellness. Like, let's meet in the wellness in the center. And we have been through times, my goodness, we have seen so much as a people, and we just have to bring it back to our well-being. Where does it hurt? And wherever it hurts for the day, let's pour self-care, some spiritual practice, some rest, pause, drop, pause, and return to center, however we can. These are really important times to take care of yourself, and especially at the top of the year. Right now, let's set in place what our boundaries are, where our attention is going, and what is allowed to drive us every day.
The opposite, in my mind at least, the opposite of cloudy is clarity. You don't want to be, you don't be you don't want to be cloudy. You want to have some clarity. And I wonder again at the top of the year how we move out of the cloudiness of last year, as it were, into some clarity as we start the new year. Talk to me about how we find clarity.
Yeah, clarity a lot of time comes from being patient. If we think about, like, I write in Bible Hour Daily, I write in there, there's a chapter where I talk about metaphorical terrains, and fog is one of those, as you know. And so the fog really teaches us to be still. When you're driving through fog, as you know, here in the city, we've had the what is it called? The radioactive fog we just had.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
I forgot the name of it. My goodness. Forgive me for who's ever listening and wants to correct that. Please do. So, radiation fog, that's what it's called. So, as we know, when it's really thick here, especially around the beach cities, we drive slower, we pause, we may even redirect our day, our time, our route because of that. And fog really is about pausing, being more still, and we don't expect ourselves to go as fast or to have much clarity when the fog is there. We just naturally know, okay, this is fog. Let me adjust. Let me adapt and adjust. And having the ability to adapt and adjust, another topic and theme in the book, allows us to be sacredly flexible, which I talk about in my online school all the time. This sacred flexibility means I can adapt and adjust. I can pause where I was wanting to go fast, where I wanted instant clarity, where I wanted instant gratification, where I need answers but aren't getting them. I can pause and get off of my own timing and just be still. And this is also mindset training. It's mindset skill, mindset mastery, even once you've done it for a while. And you can just know clarity will rise. But I will allow myself to be patient and put my energy elsewhere until then, which means that we may not get the clarity we need now, but where else in the community, in my home, in myself, can I nourish? Can I take care? Can I show up and be a good neighbor?
Yeah.
What can I do to be proactive? How can I use my skills, my knowledge? How can I exude, my goodness, how we see the peace, the monks walking for peace now. How can I have a peaceful day in my own life? And this doesn't mean we're bypassing, but it means that we also know that we are dynamic beings and we have power in all other areas besides just one. So when you feel foggy or that you don't have access to your power in one area, please go apply your power to where you are powerful. And it just keeps you going. It keeps you in momentum versus collapsing into this place of dissolve. Like, I don't have any power and I can't make a difference anywhere.
No, I love it. Radiation fog was a great analogy. I hadn't thought about it that way, but radiation fog, again, a great analogy to make the point that Delia just made. More with her, this spiritual writer, best-selling author, wellness educator. The book is called Vibrate Higher Daily. We'll talk more about that when we come forward and how we can live our power this year. You're listening to Lalah. I'm glad about it on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. If you're struggling with mental health, you should know that there are resources out there that can help. And it's okay to talk about it if you need to. One place to get started with information is loveyourmindtoday.org. Loveyourmindtoday.org offers a range of guides, instructions, and insights for dealing with difficult situations or getting through a tough time. If you're struggling with mental health, get the help you need, because most people out here really care. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it! Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Lalah Delia, who is a spiritual writer, best-selling author, wellness educator. Her book, once again, is called Vibrate Higher Daily. I love that. Vibrate Higher Daily. Live Your Power. We talked a moment ago about clarity. Talk to me about how we find steadiness in this year, Lalah.
Yeah, balance is really that steadiness. I talk about this so often, how when we think about surfers, dancers, it's all about being balanced. Like even when you're surfing, those waves are so powerful. You never know what a wave is going to do. But I live near Huntington Beach, so out in Orange County. So I love going to look at surfers. And it's so metaphorical, my goodness. So for anyone who wants to geek out on that, please look at surfers. And even hear them talk about this. They realize this and they say it too. But knowing how to balance when the waves come, like that alone, when you hear that, so metaphoric, because that's how life is. So that steadiness is practice. Give yourself grace, but knowing that I can be a little stronger today or in this moment. And a practice that I teach so often is this: when you find yourself feeling out of your power or out of your center, out of balance, do one small action. It doesn't even have to be big, just that tiny action that signifies I took my power back in this moment. So whether it's you feeling that you're going to doom scroll for the next 10 minutes when you've been doom scrolling for an hour, you're like, I'm gonna stop here. Like, this is it. If you're gonna react in a way that you feel you're giving your power over or doesn't really reflect how you want to present yourself in a conversation with a person or with the headlines, just say in this moment, let me breathe. I can make a different choice point. And these choice points are these options around you in your energetic field to say, I don't have to just choose stress or disempowerment or anger or reaction. I can choose steadiness, peace, equanimity, which is whatever's happening around me, I can be in my balance. And this is a skill that your first responders do. This is how they're able to show up in crisis, in total chaos, and be centered and perform at a high level. But we have this skill too. Athletes also have this. Monks have this. This is what we're seeing now with the venerable monks traveling through the South in Georgia. It's equanimity. It's this balance in the midst of everything, whether people are in line with the monks screaming and following or bowing and in prayer mode, they're steady. And so this really is a skill that we can grow and expand. And the more that we do it, the stronger we get. It's just allowing ourselves to choose a different reality in that tiny little micro moment.
Yeah. I want to close our conversation with Lalah when we come forward here, talking about how we choose wellness this year. There's so many definitions of wellness, but I'll let her unpack that when we come forward. But how do we choose wellness in the year to come? You're listening to Lalah Delia on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Tired of the same old sports talk? Ready to go where the real conversation happens? Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, host of Out of Bounds, the sports show that doesn't play it safe. Every Friday at 6 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580, my co-host Neil Scarborough and I get you ready for the weekend. We take you beyond the highlight reels and into the stories that matter, the controversial calls, the game-changing plays, the athletes making headlines for all the right reasons and sometimes the wrong ones. From the NFL to the NBA, college ball to the pros, if it's happening in sports, we're breaking it down with no filter and all opinion. Tune in to Out of Bounds with me, Ray Richardson, and my co-host Neil Scarborough, live every Friday at 6 p.m. only on KBLA Talk 1580, because the best conversations happen out of bounds. KBLA Talk 1580, where Los Angeles talks.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Lalah Delia. I've got 4 minutes left. I want to close by talking about her 3-part audible meditation series and her new book that she's working on right now, I think. I still love Vibrate Higher Daily, but there's another one in the works. We'll do that in just a second here. Say a quick word about how we choose wellness this year, Lalah.
Yeah, wellness. Wellness is how we take our power back. Wellness is how we do a lot of the things we don't feel we have access to. And one of the things I just want to leave us with is this. A lot of the blockage, a lot of the stagnation in our lives, we can track back to an area of our lives that may not be well, whether it's our relationships, our communication skills, the energy, the company around us, the environment we're in, the choices we're making, the stress levels, all of it. How can we be well? And wellness is just not about what supplement did I take today. Wellness is your energetic choices, again, boundaries, self-care, the ability to be stable, to be centered and balanced. All of it matters. Wellness, when you think about it like that, it becomes well-being. And well-being is the greater hub where wellness is inside of there, with your spirituality, the type of work you're doing, how your home life is, mindset, all of that. So really take all of that into consideration. You don't have to start everywhere at once, but start somewhere. Challenge yourself every day to start somewhere. And that in itself is going to give you so much power, just making that small step again.
I love it. Say a quick word about the new book that you're working on, I'm told, and about this 3-part audible series on meditation.
Yeah, so this 3-part audible meditation series is to help you. One, there's an energy cleanse, there is a meditation for better sleep and rest, recovery, and there's one for empowerment to come back home to yourself. So everything we talked about today, you can practice these through that through those meditations. They're on Audible. You can sign up for a free trial if you're not an Audible subscriber yet. And if you are, it's already there. You have access to it there. Add them to your library. And yeah, all this work I'm teaching there. I am writing also my 2nd book. I'm so excited. It's set to come out in 27. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. She Remembered Who She Was and the Game Changed is the title, and is also the first words on on chapter 1 on the first page of Vibrate Higher Daily, my current book.
Oh, yeah. She remembered who she was, and the game changed. Love that title. That's the second book coming soon, and, of course, the first book out now. Find it for yourself. Vibrate Higher Daily. Live your power. Lalah, good to have you on the first live show of our year. I wish for you nothing but an amazing year ahead with great work to come. But thank you for your insights today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Tavis. You too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Good to have you on the program. We close today with a shout out to the men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Today, of course, is Founders Day, 1911. Today, we celebrate 115 years. I'm pleased to be a part of this organization of brilliant brothers in this country and, for that matter, all around the world. So happy Founders Day to all the Kappa brothers. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.